Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Leslie Walters, and I serve on the Board of Trustees. Today we welcome Tim Trussell-Smith to our pulpit. His sermon title is The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner. Tim will draw on metaphors from athletics to discuss his vision of our shared tradition as individuals and as a community of believers. He will focus especially on his own spiritual race and why he has decided to pursue professional ministry in our tradition. Thanks, too, for our special music today provided by George Olin on the clarinet and Steve Hollingsworth on the piano. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please exit either the door you came in on or the emergency exit to my right. And now, if you'll stand as you're willing and able and greet your neighbors.
My wife, April Trussell-Smith, will light the chalice this morning. That was Mary Hunter's idea, not mine. No nepotism here. It's appropriate since I'm borrowing words from her, the Unitarian Church she first brought me to in Macon, Georgia, when we were students. I will read the words from High Street Church, and then we will read the unison chalice lighting together. The words for the unison lighting may be found in your program. Go ahead. We light this flame in memory of years past that have brought us to this hour and to the countless lives, known and unknown, that have made our lives possible. We light this flame of life in affirmation of the strength that is ours to live this day and the potential we have to create a better tomorrow. We light this flame of faith that our minds may be enlightened, our love deepened, and our path together illumined by understanding and peace. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to share, and to share. Now, please stand as you are able and join in singing hymn number 113. The Prelude. I apologize. The Prelude by Steve and George Olin. I am already jumping the gun. Then we'll have the hymn. Hymn number 113.
Where is our holy church? Where
We now invite the young and the young at heart to come forward for a story. And Des Papendorf is going to be helping me out with this one. It should be familiar to many. How are you guys doing today? Good? Yeah. So many. You guys know the story of the tortoise and the hare? Yes? Okay, well, there's a little different twist on it that Des and I are doing. Hope you like it.
I have a book.
Do you?
About the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah?
It doesn't just have a tortoise and a hare. It
Has a lot of stories? Well, don't give away the ending, okay? Thanks. Once, in the forests around Chickamauga Creek, lived a hare. Do you guys know what a hare is? It's a rabbit? Yeah. It's like a tall rabbit with long legs. So they're a lot faster than a little bunny like you might see. Well, Mr. Hare wasn't just any rabbit. He was the Tri-State Rabbit Sprint Champion 3 years running.
Now, in the same forest, there also lived a tortoise. Do you know what a tortoise is?
There you go, Sophie.
Awesome answer. This tortoise wasn't spectacular in any particular way, but she was a friend to all the animals, so everyone called her Sister Tortoise.
Now, one day in the summer, Mr. Hare was out for a training hop in the fields. It was a very hot day, and Mr. Hare was looking for an excuse to stop for a while. He saw his friend Bubba Fox in the road and stopped to talk about the weather. They agreed that it was humid.
Just then, Sister Tortoise happened by. Good morning, she said.
What's so good about it? Sneered Mr. Hare. It's too hot. It's too humid for hopping fast. But you wouldn't care about that. Your feet are so short and you move so slow that you probably never break a sweat.
Oh, Mr. Hare was being mean for no reason. Sister Tortoise smiled, though, and said, I believe I could beat you in a race.
You think so? Let's just see about that. I'll race you from here to the creek and back. Bubba Fox, you be the judge.
Although Bubba thought it was rather silly to run a race on a day like this, he agreed. He marked out a line in the dirt road to serve as a start. And when they left, and a start on the finish line, and when they returned from the creek, it would be the finish line. And then he said, on your mark, get set, go!
Oh! Now, Mr. Hare didn't hop away right off. He turned to Bubba Fox and said, Bubba, I'll give her a head start since she is so very much slower than I am.
Sister Tortoise continued to walk in the direction she had been going at first, which was toward the creek. How nice to take a walk to the creek. I was going there anyway, to gather some water lilies for old Miss Doe. They're her favorite, and she's had such a bad cold. Let Mr. Hare prove he's faster than me. It's of no concern.
Well, after half an hour or so, Mr. Hare did start hopping. And within 10 minutes, he had passed Sister Tortoise, who was nearly to the creek. He hopped very quickly. He saw several other animals, and each time he passed someone, he would shout, Sister Tortoise challenged me to a race, and I'm winning, even though she had a head start.
Sister Tortoise kept walking, even when Mr. Hare passed her in a cloud of dust. When she reached the creek, though, she saw that Mr. Hare had stopped under a bush.
He said, Sister Tortoise, It is so warm, and I hopped so fast. I think I'll lie down and rest for a bit. I'll give you a head start on the way back, too. I'm so much faster, it doesn't matter how far ahead you get anyway.
Sister Tortoise went about gathering some water lilies. It took a few minutes, and by that time Mr. Hare had fallen fast asleep. Oh well, she thought, maybe I'll win this race after all.
When Mr. Hare woke up, he could tell that it was much later than when he had fallen asleep. What do you think Mr. Hare said when he woke up? Yeah, that's what he said. He said, "Oh no, I fell asleep. I must really run now, or I'll look like a fool." And Mr. Hare leapt away as fast as he could.
At that time, Sister Tortoise, she was nearing the finish line. She could see that several animals had gathered there with Bubba Fox. Most of them were the animals Mr. Hare had passed during the race, and they kind of wanted to see what would happen. They cheered, "Wow!" when Sister Tortoise first came into view.
Mr. Hare hopped like the wind. He hopped faster than he had ever hopped before. He may have set a new hopping world record. And he saw Sister Tortoise and the finish line at the same time. With one last burst, he flung himself forward.
Sister Tortoise, smiling, she approached the finish line. She was a foot away when she heard the other animals gasp as they saw Mr. Hare racing for the finish around the final bend. Just as she stepped across the line, Bubba Fox had drawn. Mr. Hare slid past her. It was a photo finish. Unfortunately, none of the animals had brought a camera.
Mr. Hare panted and wheezed, trying to catch his breath. "I won!" he gasped. "I won!" All the creatures were in a tizzy. What a race! I've never seen anything like that.
I started to laugh, though. "What a lousy race," he said. "The fastest critter in 3 counties barely ties Sister Tortoise. She's not even a runner." He looked at his friend, Mr. Hare, and said, "Daddy Fox always said, slow and steady."
But, I won, said Mr. Hare. "I'm sure I crossed the line first. And she guaranteed she could beat me. What a foolish tortoise."
Sister Tortoise turned to him and said, "Dear Hare, I only said that I believed I could beat you in a race. I'm sure I could win any race that I had to win. Now, if you'll excuse me, I picked all these nice lilies when we were down by the creek, and I should really race to get them to old Miss Doe before they get too dry."
Did you guys like the story? Yeah? Who do you think won the race? The tortoise? The tortoise? Do you think the hare won the race? Yeah? Think the tortoise did? Well, now, if you guys want to go downstairs with Des, she's going to help you guys practice Spirit of Life, and you're going to come back and sing it with us at the end of the service. And we're singing you out as we go. The children's recessional can be found in your order of service. We hold you in our hearts as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our heart as you go. go. This is the Candles of Community part of the service. Okay, here we go. Candles of Community is a time to share significant events in our lives with the larger community of faith. If you wish, you may come forward at this time to light a candle on the altar and share an important joy or concern in your life. Mary Hunter will come and help it if you want to light a candle.
My joy, I'm Mary Hunter, and my joy is that Tim is here today and speaking to us, and he will be going into the ministry as soon as they find which school they want to go to. So that's exciting.
I'm Leslie Walters, and last night we had the Mardi Gras dance, I guess the first one we've had, and we had a lot of fun. Didn't have a huge crowd, but we had a lot of kids and several adults, and so I'm hoping maybe we'll make this an annual tradition, and then maybe y'all can come next year.
My name is Pat Breathen, and my joy is that my son wanted to bring us here to seek a relationship with God. That's a big step for him.
Pat, I think we're all very glad you're here. I know I am.
That's for Diane Davidson, who just bought her first home.
Which is, by the way, both my joy and my concern.
And this one is for all the unexpressed joys and sorrows.
We'll collect the morning offering now for the support and ministry of this church. If you are making a pledge payment, please mark it clearly. As always, the Dolores Wood Lewis Wilhoit Memorial Food Bank is happy to accept your non-perishable donations of non-perishable food and household items. The collection basket for that is by the front door. And thank you very much for your generosity. Spirit of life and love, we are profoundly thankful for the blessings we experience every day. Would that we recognize what is truly valuable in our lives and be thankful for it. Steve, if you please lead us in our hymn of thanksgiving. The words are printed in the program.
We give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Dona nobis pacem. Give us peace. Dona nobis pacem. Reverend Jeff intends to say that prayer each Sunday until the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have come to an end. I join in that prayer wholeheartedly. We are nearing the 5-year anniversary of our initial invasion of Iraq, and this is the 7th year U.S. troops have been in Afghanistan. This past week, soldiers in Diyala province discovered a mass grave. There were more than a dozen bodies. All of them showed signs of torture. I don't have to tell you that this is a tragedy. If such a grave were discovered in the United States, it would not only top CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, but just as with the Virginia Tech tragedy and September 11th, the networks and maybe even cable channels like ESPN and MTV would tune out their normal programming to give us the latest updates. When such a horrifying discovery is made in Iraq or Afghanistan, however, it doesn't surprise or even shock us. It is expected. It is normal. It doesn't make the top 10 most read stories on CNN.com. I checked. My prayer is for an end to such normalcy. I add to this prayer a prayer of hope, that someday violence will not be the status quo. Not in Iraq, not in Darfur, not here, not anywhere. I pray we can run the plodding, frustrating race which will lead us day by day to such peace. I pray for the impractical hope of the tortoise instead of the complacency of the hare. Dona nobis pacem. Please stand as you are able to sing hymn 348. Guide my feet.
Guide my feet.
Now, if you will remain, or just open your hymnals where you are if you don't want to stand back up. I was late on that one. We're doing a responsive reading, number 571 in your hymnal, Universal Ministry. It's the words of Isaiah. I'll read the plain type, and we will all respond with the italic type in unison. The Spirit of God has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners, to comfort all who mourn, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They shall build up the ancient ruins. They shall raise up the former devastations, the devastations of many generations. You shall be named ministers of our God. Well, it's Super Bowl Sunday, the great national holiday. Personally, I can't wait for the game tonight. I think I'm one of the few people who watches the Super Bowl for the game more than for the commercials. It's true, I'm a jock. Although I never really fell into that category socially, I did play sports year-round growing up. I even lettered in 4 sports in high school. And I still love athletics of all kinds. So I find it highly ironic that I picked this topic and gave my title to Mary without realizing that today was going to be Super Bowl Sunday. You'd think an NFL fan like me would realize that. Really, it was total coincidence. I don't plan to talk about football very much, but I will mention one Super Bowl moment, which I think complements the children's story Des and I read a few minutes ago. I will never forget when Don Beebe of the Buffalo Bills chased down the Dallas Cowboys' Leon Lett during Super Bowl 27. I was 10 years old. It was late in the fourth quarter. The Bills were down 52-17. The game was already lost. At that point, the Bills committed their 5th fumble of the game, and Leon Lett, a large defensive lineman, picked it up. He had nothing but green space in front of him. He was clear all the way to the end zone. And he ran 60 yards. But just before the goal line, he slowed down. And I'll remember this vividly. He put his hands out, the ball in this hand, and started to strut down the sideline, swaggering. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Beebe appears, diving from the edge of the TV screen. He swipes the ball out of Lett's hand and prevents a touchdown. But here's the unbelievable thing about that play. It wasn't Beebe's athletic feat. Beebe may have been the fastest player in the NFL at that point. And Lett was a none too nimble lineman. What is unbelievable is that Beebe would even make that kind of effort under those circumstances. There was no point. Nothing Don Beebe did on the field at that point in the game could keep his team from losing. There's a really corny saying that I've heard my whole life. We didn't lose. We just ran out of time. If you're a football fan in the South, you've heard this one. Don Beebe must have known in his mind that his effort couldn't affect the outcome of the contest. But he hadn't lost. He was still playing football. That moment is powerful to me, and I think it's powerful to many sports fans, because Lett and Beebe displayed 2 different kinds of pride. Lett was filled with the boastful, momentary pride of superiority, the kind of pride which I see at the heart of classism, racism, patriarchy, and a host of other social evils. Now, I don't think Leon Lett's a bad guy. I have no idea, really. But at that moment, at least, he let his ego take over. Beebe displayed something which might not even be best described as pride. He was committed to what he was doing and refused to let the circumstances alter the way he played the game. One could say that instead of taking pride in himself, he took pride in the way he played football. If integrity contains some sort of pride, then that's the sort of pride that Don Beebe had. That is the sort of pride that I have in our faith. But the title of my sermon is not the Super Bowl of Faith. No, I chose about a month ago to call this sermon The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner. Some of you probably realize I stole that title. It is actually the title of a short story by an Englishman named Alan Stillitoe. It was also made into a film of the same title. I'm not going to speak about the story itself, at least not at great length. Instead, I like the title for its own sake, as do many runners. It seems poetic to me. In fact, Stillitoe first jotted the line down independent of anything else after watching a runner jog past the window of his cottage, and he thought it would become a line in a poem. I think you have to be a runner, or be familiar with running, to understand the insight of Stillitoe's simple phrase. I used to be very serious about running. I still love the sport passionately. Running, for me, has always been more about the contest that goes on within the athlete than about the contest which takes place between the athletes. Steve Prefontaine, a great Oregon runner, famously said, "A lot of people run races to see who's the fastest. I run to see who's got the most guts." I want to see who can punish himself into exhausting pace, and then, at the end, punish himself even more. It takes guts to keep putting your foot in front of the other when all you hear your body saying is, "This hurts." I ran just seriously enough to understand that sense of loneliness. There is definitely something spiritual at work in the runners' hearts. Another quote by Prefontaine, "A race is a work of art that people can look at and be affected by in as many ways as they are capable of understanding." In his novel Once a Runner, John L. Parker describes running in religious rather than artistic terms. "Training was a rite of purification," he writes. "From it came speed, strength. Racing was a rite of death. From it came knowledge." Very simply, running and life follow the same rules. You have to put in the effort to get anything better. As Parker also writes, "The secret is, there is no secret." But both running and life are disappointing, since more times than not, one's efforts go unrewarded. In running and in life, there are moments of euphoria, but they are balanced by long periods of suffering. Often the pain seems out of balance with the pleasure. Often there is nothing save the pain. What then do we do in response to suffering in our lives? Do we pull up, put our hands on our hips, stand still and wait for that stitch in our sides to go away? Or do we press on in the face of the suffering, in the face of that suffering which reminds us, perhaps, of death? Do we continue with bold strides towards our goal? It is in the midst of this kind of crisis where I see the connection between sports, especially running, and the life of faith. I am not the first person to see this connection, though, or to use such a metaphor. Before I get into that, I think I need to say a couple things about sports and religion, just so you realize I'm not totally obtuse. A quick glance at sports in our society will reveal many flaws. Many athletes are paid too much. There is rampant cheating. Colleges forsake their academic budgets for a football team. Yes, all that is true. But that isn't what sports is about. Church, I've seen, is the same. Hypocrites abound. Not our church, mind you, I don't think. That's why I'm here. Petty squabbles derail fellowship. Certain members or groups dominate and make newcomers or those who would like to see some change feel uncomfortable. Worst of all, churches sometimes focus on defining who they are and why they have the right answers to the detriment of the larger community. But that isn't what religion is about. Not by a long shot. Both sports and faith are about discovering oneself and transforming oneself. I love them because of this. It's cliche, I know, but if our goal in life is simply to avoid discomfort, then we aren't really living. That's because pleasure and purpose are not the same thing. Let me say that again. Pleasure and purpose are not the same thing. People who make pleasure their purpose, I feel, miss their true purpose. I'm not into moral judgments, but this is one I am willing to make. On the other hand, suffering and purpose are not the same thing either. Runners accept suffering because they cannot succeed without experiencing it. But suffering is not the point either. The purpose of running is simple: to reach a goal. For the long-distance runner, that means covering a certain distance. Sometimes the runner wants to cover that distance in a certain amount of time. Of course, that time is often simply measured as faster than everyone else. Well then, that begs the question: what goals do we set in life? Who or what do we want to beat to the finish line, so to speak? How does religion enter the mix? Well, I spoke about Don Beebe earlier, and I told the children the story of the tortoise and the hare. In this version, the tortoise took part in her own race, rather than engage in a contest on the hare's terms. Don Beebe's hustle during the famous play revealed something about his makeup as a person. And you can bet he was shaped by his hours of preparation and study. Sister Tortoise's perception of which race was important revealed her commitments in life. A lifetime of focusing on the needs of others kept her motivated, whereas Mr. Hare's desire to be the fastest failed to motivate him. I'm sure you guys all realize this. At the same time, his fixation on speed blinded him to his opponent's other strengths and to her value as a member of the community. The thing about religion, when it works, is that it focuses our attention on what really matters. So here is the crux of my sermon today. It is a question, actually. What is important to us, to Unitarian Universalists and individuals, as a people of faith? What are our goals? And based on those goals, what must we do? The Christian apostle Paul used the metaphor of the runner and the race in a letter he wrote to his fellow believers. He suggested that they lay aside every weight and run with perseverance the race that is set before us. Now, Paul's race was one which took the example of Jesus as its goal. This meant that the goal of Paul's race might not be success, but rather a cruel, shameful death, like the one Jesus died outside Jerusalem. This would, of course, be Paul's fate, and the fate of many people who tried to follow the radical message of love preached by that young rabbi from Galilee. Jesus is a primary touchstone for me personally. I see him as a prophetic teacher with a brave soul who ran a race which put him at odds with authority. It is a spiritual matter that he died on a cross, but it is far from the only thing that matters, in my opinion. Of course, we Unitarian Universalists have our own history of brave, prophetic souls who lived for the truth, even in the face of danger, even danger unto death. Michael Servetus ran his race, proclaiming his belief in the unity of God, even when the people of Geneva tied him to a stake. Francis David preached freedom of belief in Eastern Europe. His preaching to the courts in Transylvania brought about the first edicts of religious tolerance in Christian Europe. His last words, carved on a dungeon cell in Diva, Romania, reveal fierce resolve in spite of his suffering. Neither the sword of popes, nor the cross, nor the image of death, nothing will halt the march of truth. I wrote what I felt, and that is what I preached with a trusting heart. The march of truth, the race that is set before us. The words of these men inspire me. They call me to action. But where is truth marching, I wonder? And what race is set before me exactly? These are the questions which David and Paul evoke in my heart. But why is the course of my race leading me at this time to pursue theological education? Well, I chose the words of Isaiah, which we read together earlier, specifically because they might as well be my calling to ministry. I hesitate to use that word, calling. I never heard a voice from the cloud saying, "Tim, thou shalt preach to the UUs." It's a good thing, because knowing myself, I probably would have sought out psychiatric help immediately. Instead, my calling is like the calling which the Buddha experienced. Although my privileged station as a white, heterosexual, middle-class male in our society kept me from very much suffering and could have kept me ignorant of the suffering of others, I somehow have become keenly aware of the world's pain. That pain calls me out. It makes my heart say, do something. I see human society itself as the devastations of many generations. We've missed the boat, in the words of one Baptist preacher I know. I mean, what words could better describe our history of hurting one another and the world around us? But why a UU ministry? Well, I've been familiar with our tradition for many years. In fact, High Street Church in Macon was the first church I ever visited as an adult. High Street had a profound impact on me. Later on in college, I did become an Episcopalian, but my vision of Jesus is very Unitarian and very Universalist. I remember talking to my theology professor when I first started thinking of ministry. I told him, "I'm thinking of pursuing ministry, Dr. Wilson, but I can't say that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life." He responded in a predictable way, looking back at least. He told me there were places that would welcome my voice. And guess what topped his list? The Unitarian Universalist Association. Yes. Of course, I didn't follow his good advice immediately. The path is never easy to see. But eventually I realized that I was a UU through and through. And finally, thankfully, I walked through the doors of this church. Now, for the last few months, my wife April and I have selected seminaries for me to apply to and PhD programs which she could attend at the same time. I have finished half of my applications. She has sent out all of hers. Maybe, my deadlines are later. Maybe, come spring, we will be accepted to one or more, and April and I will find a situation that fits us. Now that I've found my path, it seems like simply a matter of putting one foot down in front of the other in the right direction. And thankfully, I have a lot of people, you guys included, who help to guide my steps. And that, for me, is a whole point of ministry. We are all ministers. That's what I meant. You are the ministers of God. Or whoever, I don't say God myself, but, it's Isaiah's words. Yeah, thanks. I had to say it for myself. We are all ministers. Just because I want to be ordained doesn't mean I'm more of a minister than anyone else in this room. It just means I choose a certain kind of ministry, a public ministry. I volunteer to spout off at the mouth and take the heat when the heat comes up. But I've realized something, and this is preached in many traditions, especially our own. The fact is this: it is nearly impossible to finish a race on your own. Runners run together, even when they are competing with one another. Running in a group makes things easier. It's still hard to run a marathon, but the others carry you along at some point. Someone is always in front. First, one runner bears the brunt of the headwind, then another, each taking their turn. Our tradition is like that. We've had a lot of headwind. That's because we don't take the easy path or the popular one. We tend to blaze trails, and that's the hardest way to go. So we need to have faith. However, let me make a point about that. Creeds are the last thing we need. What we need to have is faith in our goals. But what are our goals? I think that our goals are pretty clear. We may not agree on who or what or whether or not God is, or pray in the same way, or have grown up in the same traditions. But we have common beliefs. They are printed right here on the back of the program. Go ahead. Now, some of you probably memorize them. I'm looking at them again. If you are not familiar with UUs, then you can think of this as our gospel. Literally, our good news. They are the principles of the UUA. To quote another line of Francis David, we need not think alike to love alike. What I have resolved to do is live by these principles, to preach according to these principles, and minister with them always, always on my mind. It doesn't matter who or what guides me. Any person who really digs down to the heart of any belief system will find the common ground with these 7 principles. I think that. I believe that. I'm willing, I hope, to lay my body on the line for my faith in these goals. I know that sounds grand, but that's the commitment that I feel I need to make. I'm willing to follow the course of Francis David and Thomas Jefferson, Emerson and Thoreau, to march the same direction as James Reeb, the Unitarian minister who gave his life in Selma. There is a race to be run. The words of Isaiah and Amos, Buddha and Gandhi. And words spoken by 1,000 other voices over the centuries are calling to us every day to run the race and do justice. I have hope. I find it here in this place. I want to be a part of the solution. I want our faith to be a part of the solution. That is the long, lonely race I intend to run to conclusion, however far it might take me. Our next hymn will be number 121. It is taken from the prophetic words of Isaiah and of Amos. Really, Isaiah's got me one up.
We'll build a land where send up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God can then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. There'll be a land building cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Bells of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
The words of Robert Mabry Doss. For all who seek God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found, and the courage to take it step by step.
There we go. Okay. The RE parent meeting is this Wednesday, February 6th at 5 o'clock. Subjects discussed will revolve around goals and visions for the RE program this year, garden plans and tasks, and a Discovering the Local Environment hiking club. This is also the family-friendly first Wednesday dinner, so you're invited to stay for dinner. First Wednesday dinner. Please make sure to sign up in the fellowship area for the first Wednesday dinner at the church. We need to get a good count for the person cooking. Thank you, which is Tim here.
Oh, yeah.
That was a reminder, too. And please stay for the hymn sing with the choir after the dinner. Photos of veterans needed. We have landed on a decision for a veterans recognition and memorial installation at the church. Please bring to church any photos you have of veterans. We will make copies of the photos and give the originals back to you. The copies will then be integrated with the ribbons in the final assembly. This is a work in progress. See Jeff or Maddie for more information. New Member Sunday. The New Member Sunday is February 17th. At that time, we will welcome new members into the church. If you have contemplated membership or know someone who wants to join, please contact Jeff right away. Upcoming recital, George Olin and Steve Hollingsworth will present a recital in the sanctuary of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga on Sunday, February 17, 2008 at 2 p.m. Joining them will be Cynthia Johnson, soprano, Karen Visor, piano, Sandy Donegan, oboe, April Itzen, flute, works by Handel, Brahms, De La Hoya, Haydn, Joplin, and Schubert will be presented. Dinner worship at B'nai Zion. B'nai Zion is again inviting our congregation to attend the Sabbath dinner and Tefillah worship on Friday, February 22nd. This begins with worship at 5:45, followed by a panel discussion, Finding God in the World, and concludes with a scrumptious Sabbath dinner. A sign-up sheet is posted in the fellowship area. Art on the Walls. Margaret Burroughs is an artist, educator, and author of children's books, poet and proponent of Black art, history, literature, and culture. Our current Art on the Walls exhibit was loaned to us by the African American Museum to sharpen our awareness of February as Black History Month. Please enjoy and appreciate not only Ms. Burroughs' fine wood prints, but also the text prepared by the museum that accompanies the art. And also, don't forget to vote on Tuesday.
Life. One of my favorite hymns.
Just making sure.
123.
123.
123. Now, out in the foyer, there is some of the best fair trade coffee in the city and some of the best conversation as well. You're welcome to join us. Thank you so much.